Let's see how the young boy from Bethlehem defeated the giant from Gath, in the valley of Elah. There was a battle between Israel and the Philistines. They were two separate nations who lived close to each other. Sometimes they fought over land and power. The Israelites were led by a man named Saul, who was the very first king of Israel. He was brave and strong, but sometimes he was kind of a jerk. On this day, though, Saul wasn't the biggest hero, because the Philistines had a super big guy named Goliath. He was so tall and muscled that the name Goliath became a nickname for all the tough guys who tried to scare the living daylight out of everyone. He would come running into the battlefield with a huge sword and shield, shouty war cries, and really bad breath. His armor alone weighed about 5,000 shekels of silver, which is a lot of shiny metal. Each of his steps shook the ground like an earthquake, and the soldiers that followed him were just as scary. Every day, Goliath would stand at the edge of the Israeli army and yell, "Hey, pick me, somebody. Why don't you people have any guts? Send me someone so I can fight them." All day long, the Israelites were scared, and no one dared go against the big bully. Now, as for David, he was just a young boy. He was the youngest son of a man named Jesse, who lived in Bethlehem. Jesse had 8 sons, and every single day he would send David to bring food and supplies to his older brothers, who were fighting in the Israelite army. One afternoon, David was walking through the camp when he heard the Israelites yelling and pointing. So he went to see what was up and saw Goliath, the big bad Philistine, scaring everyone half to death. At first, David was just another guy, saying, "Who's this big lug, and why doesn't someone stop him?" But then David's brother came up to him and said, "Do you want to hear a joke? This giant comes out every day and yells for someone to fight him. But nobody does because he looks like a freaking monster. Come on, let's get out of here." And David replied, "No way. I think I'll stay here and watch." Well, they argued back and forth for a while, but David stayed put. And when his brothers left, he went straight to the Israeli commander, Saul, and asked him if he could fight Goliath. When Saul heard David say this, he laughed and was like, "Ha ha ha, little kid wants to be a hero." "Yeah, right." So he said to David, "You can't fight that giant. He's been around for ages and he's way too strong. I've seen him fight, and it's scary. He can easily smash anyone who gets near him. You probably couldn't even get close enough to poke him in the eye." But David was still determined. So he told the king, "I'm serious. I can do it. I've been a shepherd my whole life, and I've fought off bears and wolves to protect my sheep. How could I not defeat a big meanie pants who thinks he's so hot stuff?" Still, Saul didn't think it would work, but he was pretty bored of hearing about Goliath. So he was like, "All right, you try your luck, kiddo, but if you lose, don't cry to me." So he gave David some armor, including this really cool helmet made out of bronze, but David couldn't fit in it. It was made for a grown man. So he took it off after a bit and decided to fight Goliath in his regular clothes. And just before the fight, David went to find some rocks and slingshots, which were used back then as a fun way to shoot stones. He picked up 5 smooth stones, put them in his bag, and went to face the giant. Now when Goliath saw David running towards him, he thought it was hilarious. He yelled, "Hey, little kid, do you really think you can beat me? I bet you look cute in that tiny hat. Too bad, I'm gonna crush you." So David shouted back, "Hey, smelly breath guy, you're gonna regret picking on me, you big bully." And Goliath got really mad and charged at David with his sword raised high. He wanted to poke the kid full of holes. But David was quick and nimble, so he dodged the attack and ran around the giant, throwing stones at him. The stones were small, but they hit hard, especially when you had a slingshot to help them along. And after 5 tries, David managed to hit Goliath right between the eyes. It was like one of those Looney Tunes cartoons, where the Roadrunner hits while Coyote right in the face with a big rock. Only difference here was that Goliath was a real life-sized human being, and David's stone was pretty heavy. So the giant stumbled back, holding his face. He was stunned and confused. He couldn't believe that a little kid had hurt him, for the first time in his life. He looked at the kid and realized, "Oh, crap, I might actually die." Then David ran forward and jabbed at the giant with his sword. Goliath tried to block it, but he was slow and clumsy, and after a few more hits, the giant fell down dead. The entire Israeli army was shocked. They couldn't believe that a small boy had defeated their sworn enemy. As for David, he was pretty happy with himself. He'd proven that it wasn't always the biggest or strongest guy who won the fight. After the battle, Saul was really happy that the giant was finally dead. But he was also a little jealous of all the attention that David was getting. He felt that it should have been him who killed Goliath, and he was kind of salty that a kid had done it instead, even though David had saved the day. Saul started to treat him like garbage, mostly because he was a grumpy old man who liked to be number one, and David ended up leaving the army and becoming a runaway teenager, which is a really rough place to be, especially when the king is out to get you. But that's a story for another day. If you enjoyed this exciting tale of bravery and victory, don't forget to stay tuned for more. Until next time, thanks for watching.